The film begins by showing the frantic activity inside the largest illegal drug factory in Mexico, where enormous quantities of narcotics are prepared and packaged, all under the radar of the authorities. The U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration is determined to bring it down, focusing especially on capturing the head of the region's biggest cartel, a man named Memo Lucero. After extensive investigation and tracking of leads, DEA agents, especially Sean Vetter and his partner Demetrius Hicks, a former gangster who switched sides, receive a crucial tip. Lucero is throwing a massive party for his criminal associates in Tijuana. Without wasting time, Sean, Demetrius, and their DEA team raid the party, taking down guards and causing chaos with smoke grenades. It's a full-blown assault. Although Lucero tries to escape with his entourage, Sean chases him down, takes out his men, and ends up arresting the cartel boss. Back in the U.S., Sean is praised by DEA Chief Frost for the bold capture and returns home to reunite with his wife, Stacy. However, the victory is short-lived. While the government publicly celebrates the cartel's downfall, a new threat emerges in the shadows. A gang led by a man known as El Diablo begins eliminating the remaining members of Lucero's organization and takes over one of his drug factories. From prison in the U.S., Lucero learns of El Diablo's moves and is not pleased. He contacts his outside associate, Ramon Cadena, warning him to protect the rest of the cartel members. He also asks another ally, Mateo Santos, for help dealing with El Diablo and his crew. But things take a dark turn when Marta, a member of El Diablo's gang, kills Ramon shortly after he talks to Lucero. Meanwhile, Sean throws a party at his house with his closest friends, including his former gang buddy, Big Sexy. While Frost expresses concern about the rising chaos following Lucero's fall, Sean is set on enjoying a peaceful evening. However, behind the scenes, El Diablo has partnered with an American gangster known as Hollywood Jack to secure control of the operation. Jack, in turn, orders one of his men, Hondo, to eliminate Sean, who stands in the way of their expansion into the U.S. That same night, 3 hitmen break into Sean's home. Though he is shot in the stomach, Sean manages to kill them. Before dying, he tries to get information from one of the attackers, but gets nothing. In a panic, Sean runs to find Stacy, who has also been critically wounded. He calls for help, but tragedy has already struck. Weeks later, Sean wakes up in the hospital, with Frost and Hicks by his side, only to receive the devastating news that Stacy died days earlier. Consumed by grief, he tries to leave the hospital, but Hicks helps him stay grounded. After being discharged, Hicks takes him to Stacy's grave, where Sean, heartbroken, spends most of his time drowning in alcohol. However, his sorrow soon turns into a burning need for revenge against those who took his wife from him. Determined, Sean visits Lucero in prison, believing he may have been behind Stacy's murder. Although Lucero is initially reserved, he eventually assures Sean that if he had wanted him dead, he would have done it long ago. This leads Sean to believe the cartel is not responsible for Stacy's death. Sean then turns to Hicks to investigate who is truly behind the crime. They decide to seek the help of Big Sexy, who still has ties to the gangs. After explaining the plan, Big Sexy takes them to Ghost Town, a place where they might get answers from local dealers. During the search, they find a car loaded with drugs thanks to a sniffer dog Big Sexy brings along. A passing woman tells them the car's owner died of an overdose and points them to a house known as a gathering place for dealers. When they arrive at the house, they discover a horrifying scene. All occupants are dead, and the word Diablo is carved into one of the bodies. This strongly suggests El Diablo's gang is involved. While examining the scene, an unknown assailant jumps down from the roof and surprises them. After subduing him, Sean interrogates the man at gunpoint. The man eventually confesses that Slayton, an associate of El Diablo, is the new leader of the operation in that area. With this information, Sean turns the man over to the DEA for further questioning. Then, Sean and Hicks track down Slayton, who apparently uses a beauty salon as a front for his drug operations. Sean attempts a stealth strategy by posing as a cop. He approaches Slayton's car to run the plates, which clearly irritates Slayton when Sean gives him a ticket for no real reason. Sean tries to question him about Ghost Town and his drug trade, but despite the pressure, Slayton stays calm and refuses to admit anything. Frustrated by the lack of answers, Sean is on the verge of confronting him physically, but Hicks steps in to defuse the situation. At that point, the plate check on Slayton's car comes back clean, leaving Sean with no choice but to let him go. Later, Slayton stops by a friend's house under the pretense of having a drink together. Unexpectedly, he kills his friend. He then calls Hondo and instructs him to get the drugs into the streets before any other dealers can act. Slayton is increasingly bothered by Sean's persistent presence, seeing him as a threat to his operations and to LDO's interests. Meanwhile, Maceo is on a mission to relocate Lucero's wife and child to a safer place. But tragedy strikes. Just as they get into the car, it explodes due to a gas leak, killing them both. When Maceo calls Lucero to deliver the terrible news and express his sorrow, Lucero is devastated and unable to forgive him for failing to protect his family. He begins to question Maceo's competence. Lost in thought, Lucero recalls how Sean's wife also met a tragic end at the hands of LDO's crew. Feeling a shared pain, Lucero contacts Sean and suggests they join forces to take down El Diablo. After some thought, Sean senses Lucero's sincerity and agrees to the alliance, believing it might be his best shot at reaching El Diablo directly. Before parting ways, Lucero hands Sean a note with the name of a drug dealer he should look for. Without wasting time, Sean heads to the bar owned by a man named Pimin Joe, a small, well-known spot in California. To gain Joe's trust, Sean pretends to be a buyer interested in distributing drugs in the U.S., even posing as a representative of Lucero. It's all part of his plan to get to El Diablo and his organization. After tense negotiations, Joe agrees to cooperate in the deal, though not without conflict. He even tries to offer Sean some female company, but Sean, still devastated by Stacy's death, declines. When Joe jokingly implies that Sean might be gay, Sean loses his temper and nearly kills him and his crew. Frightened, Joe backs down and finally shares details about a secret deal scheduled for the next day. At the DEA office, Sean leads the planning to trap El Diablo or one of his men during the exchange. Agents will be stationed at the deal location, ready to move in once Sean gives the signal. The next day, Sean meets with Joe at her remote spot. Joe calls a man from LDO's crew to check Sean's money. That's when Hondo, overly confident, admits to ordering the murder of a DEA agent's wife. Realizing Hondo was behind Stacy's death, Sean loses control and beats him brutally. When Joe tries to have an undercover cop friend arrest Sean, another DEA agent shows up, triggering a shootout between Hondo's men, DEA agents, and Joe's crew. Sean picks up a dropped weapon and fights alongside his fellow agents until all of Hondo and Joe's men are eliminated. However, the failed operation results in the death of 3 DEA agents. As a consequence, his superior, Free, suspends Sean for 6 months, believing he needs time to recover from the loss of his wife. Reluctantly, Sean turns in his badge and returns home with a heavy heart. Before leaving, he decides to visit Lucero in prison to inform him that the revenge plan is on hold due to his suspension. Reflecting on everything, Lucero tells Sean that to fight monsters, sometimes one must become one. He also gives Sean intel on LDO stash house in Mexico, suggesting he use the money to fund his revenge. In exchange, Lucero asks to be transferred to a more secure prison. Sean begins to plan his next move and returns to Joe's bar. Joe somehow survived. Sean convinces him to help locate the stash. The next day, he reunites with Hicks and his old gang, including Big Sexy, to confront El Diablo. Though initially reluctant, Hicks eventually agrees, seeing Sean as a brother. Together, Sean, Hicks, and Big Sexy pressure Joe into contacting Slayton to arrange a deal to buy product from LDO. Slayton, excited about his first shipment to the U.S., sets up a special delivery using a private jet. When Slayton arrives at the delivery point, Sean is ready to arrest him. Under pressure, Slayton swears he never met El Diablo in person, as all their dealings were indirect. Sean decides to follow a new lead. He plants a listening device in the money Slayton is supposed to deliver to LDO. In Mexico, Slayton delivers the money, but because of a delay in the deposit, he's killed by El. Using the tracking device, Sean and his team locate El Diablo's main base. Carefully infiltrating it, they eliminate the guards until Sean comes face to face with El Diablo. And to his shock, it's Maceo, someone he had considered an ally. Maceo confesses that everything was orchestrated by Lucero, who planned to use Sean as part of his strategy to escape during a prison transfer. As Sean processes this devastating revelation, Maceo's men attack, but Hicks arrives just in time to help. Maceo tries to flee through a water canal and Sean chases him despite being shot in the leg. With his last strength, Sean manages to shoot and kill Maceo. The next day, Sean receives news that Lucero escaped during the prison transfer. Overwhelmed by a sense of duty and vengeance, he travels to Lucero's hometown to confront him. Though the place is heavily guarded, Sean, driven by justice, presses on. Upon finding Lucero, he initially intends to kill him, but ultimately decides that rotting in prison would be a far greater punishment. In the final scene, Sean visits Stacy's grave and finds her headstone replaced with a more beautiful one, a touching gesture from Hicks and the gang. With a blend of gratitude and sorrow, Sean thanks them silently before the screen fades to black. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell so you never miss a recap. See you in the next one.